morning. Thank you for joining us for the BPM Change Management PRR Review monthly meeting. My name is Nicole Hines, representing ISO Customer Readiness, and I will be facilitating today's web conference. Today's call is being recorded. These recordings are for informational and convenience purposes only, and any related transcripts should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. As a reminder, these monthly calls are structured to stimulate an honest dialogue and engage different perspectives. While we welcome comments and questions, please remember to keep comments professional and respectful. We will be taking questions throughout the call today. If you are dialed in by phone only and not on the WebEx, you can enter the question queue at any time by pressing #2 on your telephone keypad. If you connected audio through the WebEx platform, please use the raise hand feature located above the chat box in the lower right-hand side of your screen. Please introduce yourself before asking your questions. And if you need technical assistance during the call today, please send a chat message to the event producer. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the proposed revision requests that are in the initial and recommendation stage of the PRR process. We will be discussing 9 PRRs today, all of which are in the recommendation stage, and also all PRRs were submitted by the ISO. The purpose of the business practice manuals is to set forth business practices that implement the ISO tariff. The ISO conducts a yearly policy initiative roadmap to consider and rank initiatives. Policy changes submitted through the PRR process will be referred to in the policy initiative roadmap. Each subject area in a BPM is based on enabling language in the ISO tariff, and the PRR process cannot be used to introduce changes that are not supported by existing tariff authority. The first BPM we're going to talk about today is transmission planning process. PRR 1477 is for transmission planning process enhancements. The reason for this revision is to initiate the identified following changes. We adjusted the timeline for releasing draft transmission plan with planning cycles at the end of January to March, and the target approval for the final comprehensive annual transmission plan for each year in May's Board of Governors meeting. It's also to coordinate with other planning processes and enable the ISO to approve major long lead line transmission projects needed beyond the 10-year planning zone. We did not receive any recommendation comments, and the recommendation comment period expired on January 18th. The next step is to post the final decision. Are there any questions on this PRR?
I do not see any questions in queue.
Thank you. The next 2 BPMs are for market instruments and market operations. I'm going to hand it over to my market operations team to introduce. We have Michael Martin, Michael Rupp, and Jacob Fox to go over these PRRs. I'll hand it over to you guys.
This is Jacob Fox. We'll be talking about the PRR 1474, flexible ramping product deliverability. The reason for this revision is updating the BPM to reflect the calculation and report changes due to the flexible ramping product deliverability policy initiative. The recommendation comments, we didn't have any. The recommendation comment period expired on January 18th, and our next step is to go ahead and post the final decision.
Okay, good morning. This is Michael Martin in operations, and this is PRR 1479. Add a description about the residual unit commitment, the RUC undersupply infeasibility, and enforced constraints report. So the background of this change, this is not a new report. It's an existing report. We found we never described it in the market instruments BPM. We went back to our training materials and put in a couple paragraphs about the details on this report. I believe we did get a comment on this, an excellent comment, which we addressed and added more detail on. And the next step is to post a final decision.
do apologize about not updating the presentation. The comment was from WPTF. It is listed on the PRR if you'd like to see that comment.
Okay, I believe this one's mine also. It's PR 1480, updated to the section on hydro default energy bid submissions. So we put in a section on how a WEIM entity can request a new default electricity pricing hub for their hydro devs. And it's a big, long section. We hadn't had that outlined very well. So we didn't receive any comments, and that is also ready for posting the final decision.
Are there any questions over these recent PRRs?
There are currently no questions in queue.
All right, PRR 1471. This updates Hybrid Resources Phase 2B policy initiative. So this includes the new ACC constraint structures, market processes, dynamic limits, and examples and diagrams. This current version has no comments unless the comments period expired on the 18th. The next step is to post final decision. I will clarify or add a qualifier onto that. We did have external participant training this morning where some issues came up around dynamic limits. So there might be one more edit to this to just add more clarification or more examples. So either we'll go in this PRR or possibly an emergency PRR.
All right, let's take a talk about PR 1473. So this is also flexible ramp product deliverability. So the reason for this revision is updating BPM to reflect calculation and report changes due to the flexible ramp product deliverability policy initiative. So first recommendation comment period expired January 18th, 2023. So we did put this back into another recommendation comment period because we had a last minute change, which I think we added yesterday. It essentially just says that we're only going to be enforcing base constraints. We're not going to do contingencies for FRP. So we reopened the comment period for that, and that will expire on February 14th, 2023.
Okay, PRR 1478, the removal of the 50% spin requirement. A couple of years ago, in fact, WEC removed the requirement that every balancing authority needs to carry 50% contingency reserves. The focus today is on your frequency response. So we removed the language that we do not need to carry 50%. We will step down our percentage and send out market notices when we do probably in the first quarter here of the year. We didn't receive any comments, and the comment period expired, and the next step is to post the final decision. Thanks.
Do we have any questions over these PRRs?
There are currently no questions in queue.
All right, thanks everyone. The final BPM we're going to be talking about is settlements and billing, PRR 1476 and 1481. Again, both are in the recommendation stage, and I will hand it over to Massey.
Thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. My name is Massey, and I'm part of the settlements team. I'm going to go over these two PRRs. Now, these two were emergency PRRs, starting with 1476. This is associated with high voltage PTO leaving mid-month, so we had to change some configuration guides accordingly. to accommodate PTOs leaving mid-month rather than end of the month. And we didn't receive any comments on this. The next step is post-final decision. Any question on this emergency PR 1476? All right.
Currently no questions in queue.
Thank you, Michelle. Next question. Next PR is, this one is also an emergency, which is 1481. This is associated with hybrid resource phase 2B to ensure non-hybrid resources selecting CAISO forecast to receive forecast B. We haven't received any comments on this, and the next step is post-final decision. Any questions on PR 1481?
We do have one question in queue.
Okay.
Caller, your lines are muted. You may go ahead.
Thanks. Hey, Massey, this is Mike from CES. I haven't seen it anywhere, and I may have just missed it, but I understand there's a process for sort of a manual process for excluding hybrid resources from RAIM. And the way it was described to me was there was effectively a list that the ISO was given of hybrid resources that would be excluded. Is there any formal documentation around phase 2B that would describe that process?
Yeah, I don't know right at the top of my head, Mike. Do me a favor. Can you send us a city ticket and I'll track it down?
Sure. Thank you.
You got it, but appreciate it. Any other questions?
There are no additional questions in queue.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, that concludes our call for today. The next monthly meeting will be February 19th at 11 a.m. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at bpm_cm@caiso.com. Thank you for joining, and I hope you have a great day.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Event Services. You may now disconnect.